Hi there, this is Sarah Kuhn. If you are an INFJ or in a relationship with an INFJ or related to an INFJ in any way, and you want to figure out how they operate, what makes them tick, and how to communicate with them better, this is the show for you. It's called The Quiet Ones. This is a show that deconstructs INFJs, what they are, how they think, how they feel, how they operate, and how they relate to people with other personality types. Whether you have just found out that you're an INFJ or have known for a number of years, there is something for everyone. You will learn more about your personality type so that you understand who you are and understand how you operate in the workplace, in relationships, in your family, and with friends. I want you to walk away from every episode feeling like you have a place of belonging, feeling like you are no longer alone, feeling like you have a place to be heard and seen and understood as you really are. This is a place to connect with other INFJs, to learn and grow and really thrive. I want to give you inspiration and real life strategies that are going to help you figure out how to live your best life every single day. Though INFJs are very rare, you are not alone in this world. You are not the only one who thinks the way that you do and feels the way that you do. Hear from real INFJs just like you. Hey there! Welcome to another episode of The Quiet Ones. I'm Sarah Kuhn. I am so excited that you are here today. A while ago, several weeks ago, I got an email from the lady that we're going to talk to today. Her name is Lauren. And I was terrified when I opened it, honestly. Lauren is a sexologist. And when I saw what she did, I was like, ooh, no. We're not going there. But she had this really well-written email, and she had links to some things that she's written. And I've noticed that things that scare me, but that are also a little bit interesting, are things that I like to lean into and see what really is this. Maybe I just have some prejudices or my own judgments about it, and maybe I really should talk to her and explore this and see exactly what it is. So I wrote back to her, and I think I even said something like, this isn't really something that I usually talk about, and I'm not super comfortable. And she wrote back to me, that's totally cool. I'll make you feel comfortable, like whatever it is that you want to talk about, however far you want to go, however deep, whatever it is. Totally cool. So yeah, I said yes. I found myself saying yes, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then we sit down to the interview, and I'm like super, super nervous and very scared, and like, oh, what did I just agree to? Like, did I really say that I would talk about this? Because I don't usually even talk about this kind of stuff to my friends. Yeah. So what happened was we had an amazing conversation that was just, it was awesome. It really was. And I'm so glad for you guys to hear it. And I asked her some really interesting questions that I've been curious about and really didn't know who to ask. So yes, I hope that you'll listen to the interview, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. Lauren is completely amazing, and she's super sweet, and I'm positive that she's an amazing coach, honestly. So without further ado, here is Lauren. I have to tell you that I have never been so terrified and nervous to do an interview in my life. And when you sent me an email, I was like, oh no. But then at the same time, I was like, wait a minute, nobody talks about this. So we should really talk about it, because there are a lot of people who need to hear about it. There are a lot of people who have questions and don't know that there are resources available, or don't even know who to ask,
Yep, exactly. And honestly, it's one of those topics where the initial part is just getting started, can be the challenging part. So once we get going, you'll probably find that you forget like the the nervousness and the anticipation of it just starts to drop a little bit, because hopefully I help you create a really comfortable space to talk about taboo stuff in. But like I said in the email, we can keep it so gentle and so focused on libido, because it's a really holistic term, rather than, you know, what happens in the bedroom, performance, tips and tricks and all that sort of stuff. Like you said, like, I really love what you put forward about the communication and talking about and asking for what you want, because none of those tips and tricks mean anything if there are blocks with the communication aspect, or not trusting your intuition. And we'll talk about all that stuff. But yeah, so I really love the what you put forward, because it will provide the most fruitful and compassionate tips and tricks. Yeah,
I think that a lot of my audience, a lot of us introverts, sort of start with a disadvantage because we just don't like to talk, period.
Yeah.
And when it comes to anything that's like a little bit different or uncomfortable, then it's like, nope, not gonna go there, not gonna talk about it. And I really feel like both of my parents are introverts, and my dad is the type of person that you don't talk about that kind of stuff. I don't want to hear about it. Go talk to your mom.
Yeah.
And with my mom, it was a lot of, and I'm like, I don't know. But that was the end of the conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that that's where the difficulty in talking about it starts, because it starts with, it doesn't feel like you're in a safe place to begin with. So then how do you break through that, to talk about it later in your life, especially, when you're 35 years old and it's like, oh, this is really awkward.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What happens in our formative years is so influential, when parents have their own discomfort about it and their own reservations and their own inhibitions. And then are like, okay, you go work it out. I've given you this little crumb. Now you work out the rest. And it's like, I can't work out the rest because I don't know what the rest is. And then it's all bottled up. And then we're in a situation that really has so much meaning to us, or we're in an interaction with someone that's really important or has a lot of value to us, and it's like the shutdown. The shutdown comes in, because it's like, I don't even know where to start with this. It just feels so big.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for introverts, even just communication, is awkward, but then taking your relationship to the next level, it's just, there's just this whole level of anxiety that makes dating almost overwhelming to some of us.
Yeah. 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 It's asking your nervous system to operate in a way that it technically doesn't enjoy. It doesn't enjoy the high stimuli, the speed dating possibilities, the multiple options. It's just too overwhelming for our very delicate nervous systems. And the fact that we value, essentially, I like to think we value quality over quantity, and that is not what the current modern day dating world is geared for, is it? It's all about, here's all your options, and looking at it through a screen as well, keeping us really stimulated is just, to me, it just feels like the opposite of what an introvert needs. I think we need something that's far more personalized, more considerate, maybe not on a screen, maybe, done in a gentler, more down-regulating way.
Right. One of the things that I've noticed about myself, and I've heard other people say this too, is that it's really hard for us to be attracted to somebody until we actually get to know them. And, you can look at somebody and say, oh, that guy is really cute, but do I really want to go out with him until I've actually gotten to know him? There really isn't an intense attraction until you figure out what his personality is like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with introverts, there's a sense of being a slightly slow processor. We just need to take our time, and I've lived a lot of my life not valuing that, being a high achiever and just going, all right, keep things moving, like keep pushing through. and keep working out, what do you like them or not like, just wanting things to go fast, when the reality is that we really need the medicine of slow, so that we can just take a step back, sense how we feel about someone, and just take baby steps and wade into the water. Like, wading into the waters is one of my favorite approaches in work and life, because it just allows us that trust to build gradually, that sense of safety to just incrementally improve, rather than, okay, chuck you in the deep end, like, get to know this person, is it all on, like, you're gonna have sex with them now, like, all of that, like, it's too much too soon. So a lot of my clients are introverts, so I'm really affirming that they actually need to do this, that they can't force themselves to just know straight away how they feel about someone. And that can be really frustrating, because other people are moving really fast and they're trying to keep up. But it's far easier for someone who moves fast to slow down to the person that's a slow processor than ask someone who's a slow processor to quickly speed up their time frame when it comes to processing, if that makes any sense. It's just going to leave them frazzled and confused.
Right. What's funny to me is us, and you're an INFJ too. So us as INFJs, we can process getting to know people like really quickly. Like, as soon as we meet somebody, we kind of have feelings about them, like intuition of, yes, this is a good person, or no, there's something I don't like about them. But then when it comes to the romantic side, I think it's, at least for me, it's all of these feelings that get mixed up in all of the intuition, and it's like just this jumbled mess. And I think that's what you're talking about with slowing down all the process, because it's like, ooh, what is this mess that I'm feeling? When I'm analyzing your feelings, then it's just works right away really quickly. But when I'm trying to figure out what I'm feeling, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I need 6 months to figure this out. Maybe more.
Maybe more. The 6 months is flexible. Don't quote me on it.
And that's before this guy asked me out on a date, right? Like, I need 6 months to get to know you before I can decide if I'm going out on a date with you. Which, like you said, is so opposite of the whole swiping culture. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And I really love what you said, because as INFJs, as introverted women, because we're so focused on making sure other people are comfortable, we've got this inner conflict happening of, like, I can hear my body and what it's saying, or I can feel my excitement start to build, or I can feel the butterflies, or I can feel the goosebumps. But then my focus is so outward on them and what they think of me and how they're perceiving me right now, and are they comfortable right now, that there can be this kind of competing stimuli of, like, wanting to people please and wanting to make sure that we're being seen in a certain light by this person, but then having our own instincts and feelings fluttering, or saying yes or saying no. And it's just I think that's the hardest thing, is that sense of, wait, what do I put my attention on? I want them to be comfortable, but I also want to know what I want.
There's two things that are constantly warring for me when I meet you, especially if it's somebody that I'm really attracted to in the beginning. It's like, what do they think of me? And then I also have anxiety, and my anxiety is usually through the roof, but I usually don't know. I don't even notice it until after I'm away from them. And then I'm like, oh, why do my hands hurt? Oh, it's because they've been clenched up for as long as I've been talking to them. Like, why does my chest hurt? Oh, because I haven't really been breathing very well for this whole time. Maybe that's why I'm lightheaded. Maybe I should take a minute to really focus on myself rather than focusing on everybody else.
Yeah. And the body, all really good points, because the body does reveal afterwards how we're feeling. And I think if we take note of that, if we take note of how our body goes into contraction when it's anxious or when it's feeling uncomfortable, then the next time we go into that situation, hopefully we have just one little like pearl of wisdom that kind of can take a breath and step in and go, oh, wait a minute, what are your hands doing right now? What are your feet doing? Are you lifting your feet off the floor? We often do that when we're feeling a bit ungrounded or untethered. Or are your shoulders hunching forward? Like, are you going into kind of a self-protective mode? So yeah, one thing that I think can really be beneficial for introverted women and INFJs is to really start to take note of how their body starts to go into a form of classic protection, like a classic protection state, and how this can send conflicting messages if we are with someone that we like. So it's not about just trying to have this really open body stance and being all out there and trying to like display this like fake sense of confidence if you're not feeling it. It's just about one step at a time, gently opening up your hands so they're not clenched in balls, gently putting your shoulders down away from your ears. Just taking a breath right down deep into your belly, checking that your groin isn't, clamped up in contraction, because it feeds the feedback loop of I'm not safe, or I can't look after myself, or I'm in a highly stressful situation right now. If the evidence is that you are technically safe and you're with someone that you like and that you're interested in, then that's your opportunity to just start to let go of your body a little bit in and out of the bedroom. The best place to practice is just when you're in a general conversation with someone, not to first start to practice this when you're in the bedroom and things are getting started, because you're really vulnerable then. So play with when you're dating, when you're courting, play with all of this just play with down regulating your body. I'm not going to use the word relax, because relax can be so triggering for people who experience anxiety. Like I think every person who experiences anxiety has had someone say to them, just relax. And it's like, I can't just relax. So I'm not going to
calm down.
Or calm down. I'm not going to use those words. The words I like as an introvert are decompressing and down regulating. Because to me, like, especially decompressing, it's just like taking letting the steam out a little bit and just allowing that decompressing, just allowing that stress to relieve itself from my body. So yeah, really, really pay attention to your body. It's giving you valuable clues and cues as to what's going on in your environment. But if you're wanting to convey something else to someone, then just watch for how it might be acting in opposition to what it is that you want to share with them, or the ways that you do want to develop intimacy or openness with them. And just do a little wriggle, a little jiggle in some of those spots I mentioned before. And it can just help you like be more in your body and be more you, essentially, so that you're not operating from this place of fear and what is it they want to hear, because they're never going to feel you if you're operating from that mode of wanting to please them and wanting to say to them what it is that you think they want to hear. Like, they want to feel you, and you've got a deep, rich inner world. Start sharing it, little pieces, piece by piece.
That was one of the things that I was surprised to see on your website. I don't know what I was expecting, but really being yourself wasn't one of the things that I was expecting. So I was a little bit surprised. But it's something that is really touched home with me, because I've noticed in my relationships, even just with my friends and the relationships that I have at work, that people have a false sense of who I am because I'm trying to please them and do everything for them.
Yeah.
And then ultimately there always comes to head of where my true self comes out, and they're like, oh, that's not what I thought that you were. Mm-hmm. And then there's like this breaking point. And I know that it happens in relationships as well. So how do you start from the beginning with that? What's your advice to not do that, or to protect yourself against that?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I love this.
That's a big question.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a really, really good question. Something I want to say is permission is one of my favorite concepts, because it's like we all need to be our own permission granters. what I want to say is when you're first meeting people, they're actually looking to feel you, to get a sense of who you are. And for as long as you're in that mode of worrying about or like molding yourself to be what you think or what, or it's a lot of guesswork as well. You don't actually know. You might think you know, but you don't actually know what it is that they expect from you. Or yeah, so whenever you're in those initial interactions, just give people a little bit of something and own it. Like own that you're quiet, own that you like reading, own that you like calligraphy, own that you like, go to the spa, whatever it is for you. Just give them a little piece of how it is that you spend your time or what it is that you really enjoy, because no one's going to feel closer to you or feel like they understand you when you've got that wall up and what you're saying isn't genuine or isn't your truth. Like we feel people when they are comfortable with their own truth, and then it's like there's a bit of magnetism to that, even if we don't agree with it. It's just like, that's cool, that's what they stand for. Now I know that. Now I get a sense of who they are. So you don't have to give the whole life story naturally when you first meet someone, and I know that you're not going to, because that's not how we operate. We take some time to warm up, and that's okay. But something I've been saying to my clients lately is we have to give people something. And one of my clients calls it breadcrumbs. Like, yeah, sometimes you just got to give them a little bit more than crumb. Like you've got to give them maybe the crust of the pie, like a piece of the pie, not the whole pie. So yeah, like this is our greatest conundrum, right? Like we want to be known and we want to be seen, and we're like in this turmoil, like writing in our diaries about how no one understands us. But then people ask and we don't give them the chance. We don't give them the opportunity. So start to separate yourself from being so invested in what other people think of you. It's a fruitless venture that's never going to make you happy, and it's never going to help you find your people. Give people a little bit, and if it doesn't resonate with them, don't sweat it. Like don't spend lots of time on them. Don't spend lots of time trying to conform to what you think that they want you to be and all of that stuff. Like just be you and own all the stuff that you like and your preferences and your dislikes and your values. Like values are so important to INFJ. Like we are, it's not so much about goals. I don't think it's about values, like things that have so much meaning to us. Like we're all about the meaning and the feeling. I know I am. So give people a little bit and just stand in your truth and stand in your power. Because then you'll know very quickly whether they're going to be a good friend or a good partner, or a colleague or co-worker that you could, have coffee with. Just, all those sorts of interactions that come into our life. So, so give them something and be cool with that. Like you're you, and that's the best thing.
Right. You're absolutely right. I'm always attracted to those people who are incredibly authentic. There's just something that's totally magnetic about it, that it's like, oh, I wish I could say that. One of my friends, really before she was one of my friends, I met her at work, and she said to me one day, she's like, I'm not going to do that because it doesn't serve me and I'm totally selfish, but it's okay because I own it. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I mean, I want to be selfish too. Can I say that? Like, is that okay? She's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? Why are you asking me for permission to be selfish? I was like, oh, okay. I don't need permission. I'm going to give myself permission, and that's just how it's going to work.
Yep. So think about and think about the friends that are permission granters for you. Think about the people that own it, and it's not about trying to be them, but embodying some of the ways that they are and what they've said to you, and making that bring that in as your own version, because no one's going to step in and do it for you, and no one's going to dig and try to get to know you when you keep putting a wall up. Like that's just so much effort for them. And we've got to remember that in relationships, we are selfish. We are very self-centered in relationships. And what happens in relationships in the bedrooms is all the body wants to know is, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? How am I going to get rewarded? Why am I going to be incentivized to keep spending time with this person or being intimate with them? So the person that owns it and is clear on what they can get out of it, it's not narcissistic. It's just a fact, is we're not going to keep spending time when we're not getting anything from it, and when we're just putting in lots of effort and not getting much back from them. So you revealing, and all of us revealing and just being ourselves, makes it more incentivizing for other people to want to spend time with you and be connected to you.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about communication while we're talking about communication. So when you're in a relationship and you have this problem with communicating what it is that you want, how do you get past that? How do you work through that?
Yeah. A couple of things come to mind. I think one of the first things you can say in a conversation that happens outside of the bedroom, because it happening in the bedroom or right before sex or during sex, or so it doesn't have to be about sex, but that's usually the most charged and most vulnerable and confronting situation that we're in.
Right.
Is one of the things that you can start is by saying, this is so fucking awkward for me. Like, this is really hard for me to say. Like, just owning it straight from the get-go. Like, not trying to be really eloquent about it, not trying to pretend that this comes so naturally to you when it really doesn't, but just saying from the beginning, this is really hard for me to say. I've been sweating bullets over it. I've been so anxious about it. Just blah, 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 blah. Like, doing a bit of an emotional dump beforehand, like a bit of a bleh.
Getting them prepared for something really big.
Doing that beforehand.
Relieved when it's not that.
Yeah. Think of that relieved feeling. Just doing that beforehand can be so helpful, because it helps you take the power back. For as long as those feelings are just in the control room, telling you what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, and why you shouldn't do that, and why that's such a risk, and why you're not safe, and all of those things. For as long as they've got the steering wheel and the gears and the brakes and all of that, it's we kind of have to kneel down before them. We kind of act in accordance with what they want. But when we go, hey, this is awkward and I felt anxious and blah, 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 we clear out a little bit, so then we can feel less fearful and more in our power, and a lot clearer with what it is that we have to share. So we're coming less from a place of like feeling up, our nervous system being in upregulation and feeling worried and stressed and fearful, and just more from a place of like, okay, this is hard. And then it's okay if it's verbal diarrhea, because you've already said this is really hard for me. So it feels like there's lots of fecal references. Anyway, I want to stay on those words so much longer. I just wanted to. So just saying it's awkward. The other thing is you said about your likes and preferences and dislikes in a relationship. And the easiest thing, it might sound counterintuitive, but the easiest thing that you can do when it comes to relationships, dating and intimacy, and Sarah, I've actually seen you do this quite a bit in your work, is like you've put like the 10 things INFJs dislike or can't stand or hate. And it might sound funny and it's not being negative, but to just put down what you really don't like. You can write it down if you want. In fact, I think we process things a little bit differently and maybe can be a little bit more honest in our writing. And this part's just for you before you have a conversation. One thing you can do is write down what you really don't like in relationships, what you really won't stand for, what you won't tolerate, what aspects of sex and intimacy you really don't like, or maybe cause a disgust response. The reason why I say to start with that is because it helps you then edge into, okay, well, that's what I don't like. What do I like? If this really doesn't feel good for me, maybe what's on the opposite of that feels really good for me. Like, I don't like being I don't like being disrespected. I don't like feeling dehumanized. Okay, well then I really need someone to look at me, or I really need someone to acknowledge me, or I really need someone to spend more time on the foreplay part or the kissing part or the affectionate part of touch. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. But it's a good way of just getting clear on, kind of allows you to trickle down into what you do like when you're like, I don't know what I like, or I don't know what I'm interested in. I don't know what I prefer. So start with what you don't like and funnel it down. And I think using mixed forms of communication in relationships is a good idea in the early days, like sometimes writing something down for someone, sometimes speaking to it. Yeah, sometimes maybe using your body, like, in tickling or something like that, some other form of playful touch to say that, like, hey, I like you, rather than just thinking that everything that you need to do needs to come from your voice, because it doesn't. We use a variety of things, and you feeling pressured to only use your voice to communicate is gonna might even block you from communicating because it feels overwhelming. So know that you've got a variety of ways of revealing yourself to someone and telling them how it is that you feel.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that all of the dating advice columns tell you, is that when you like somebody, to find a way to touch them, like on your first date or your second date or however it is, even if it's just some simple thing, which it always feels awkward for me.
Yeah. Especially when touch isn't your love language, or it isn't the predominant way that you express how you feel.
Yes, and for me, I've kind of, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I think I've been alone so long that I'm almost too comfortable being alone. So when there's somebody else around, then it's like, it's just awkward being in the same proximity to them. So then there's like this whole other barrier to break through. But I mean, it's good from the perspective of, I know what I want, but then it's also like, oh, this is going to be really difficult.
There's going to be a period of assimilation, it sounds like. Just like getting used to having someone back in your realm, like in your orb.
Just starting over from the beginning again.
Yeah. But just remember, when you really like them, you're probably going to want them to be around.
Right.
Yeah. Like you're probably going to, like some of those tendencies might subside for a little while because you're really into them and you like want to feel them, and not necessarily feel them in touch, but feel them and their presence and what they have to offer. So what I'm saying is, I hope that's what happens.
So part of my problem is that I've been told by many people that I have really high expectations. So I know that that's a big thing for INFJs, with us being very perfectionistic, being all or nothing. It's like, if I can't, when I started running to get some exercise, and I was like, I'm going to be really good at running. And so I was really dedicated. And then I was like, this isn't really good. I don't like it. I can't do it. It's really hard. And so I'm like, fine, I'm just not going to do it. And, I feel like that's, a big thing for us as well. So how does that relate, and how do you get past that? Because that can be a really big hurdle when you're talking about dating and intimacy, to have that perfectionist, really high expectations, especially, because we live so much in our heads and we have all of these ideas, and they don't always match up with reality. Hallmark and Disney have set us up for failure.
Yes, majorly. Oh my gosh, I had Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast on repeat back in the day. When they came out. Yeah, for sure. So reducing perfectionism when we're and our high expectations. You mean mostly in the early phases of a relationship? Is that what you're?
But even when it comes to once it comes to big moments in your relationship as well, I relate it to how I was feeling about Christmas and the holidays, right? You put a lot of expectations on yourself, and you put a lot of expectations on other people, because as INFJs, we want things to have meaning, and we want it to be special, and we want it to be this big thing that we have put a lot of thought into and a lot of effort into, and then it comes, you know, Christmas Day, and you have this great present that you have just spent maybe not a lot of money, but definitely a lot of effort and thought.
No.
And then when they hand you your present, you're like, what is this? I don't know. You don't know me at all. Like, what is going on here? And it's just like, it almost ruins the whole thing, because you're like, you just don't care about me. You don't love me. You don't know me. You know?
Yeah. The expectation things, if I can be really frank, I've worked on that one a lot I'd say the last 5 to 7 years, maybe, like just really being a little bit less attached to them. And I think knowing my own personality profile helps me to be really compassionate towards others' personality profiles, and to know that they don't see the world the way that I see it. And that's actually a really good thing, because they've got other forms of perception or other skills, or if they're extroverts, and there's still something that I can learn and gain from other people. So I've tried to be I've tried to approach those high expectations that I have, because they are astronomically high, and really come to go, well, I actually don't want everyone else in the world to be an INFJ as well, because we'd all just be sitting around bumping our heads and like being, but you don't understand me, but you don't understand me, and being some like sort of like, I don't know, deep, we wouldn't get anything done basically. Like we need other people with other strengths and other ways of seeing things, and to just be really understanding of that, and to know how what you're actually asking about relates back to libido, if I can make it leave. And by the way, I'm really good at the web, like seeing the web and seeing how all of like the threads connect. So I'm going to connect them right now. When you lower it's not about lowering your expectations, it's about lowering your attachment to those expectations, I think, and having it not completely derail you. Like I've had so many forms of rejection just derail me and ruin other really precious moments in my life, or something not turning out the way that I wanted. And then it's like, no matter what happens, it's like, well, that doesn't matter because this shit thing happened, and like I'm still focused on that. And it's like, I regret the times that I'm getting a little bit feeling all the feels now. The moments in life that I've not really embraced because I was too focused on this one thing that didn't go the way that I expected it to.
Yeah.
And the worst ingredient, something I learned very early on in learning about libido and learning about sex and intimacy, is the worst ingredients for female sexuality are judgment and high expectations. Like judgment, high expectations, and pressure. Like none of those things work for us, because they take us out of our body, they take us out of the moment, and they put us right up into our heads, and we become fixated and we're chewing something over rather than just being at ease or okay, or like laughing it off and being playful about it. Like that person got me a totally shit present, but like actually it's kind of funny. But like I don't know, like I don't just being okay that all is okay in the world. Like it can hurt. I don't want to downplay how much sometimes these things can hurt, but being attached and fixated on them isn't getting you closer to the things that you want and you value in your life and in relationships. It's not, what do you call it? The INFJ door slam. Like the door slam that happens is, the thing I say to myself is, how is this getting me closer to all the things that I want to feel? Like I'm saying to myself, I want to be bold, and I want to be in my power, and I want to be clear, and I want to be magnetic. Being in like shutdown mode isn't magnetic. It's okay to hurt, but when we constantly revert to that and do it again and again and again, we're not more connected to life. We're not more connected to love. We're not more in our bodies, which is what so many of us want. So just every time you notice that you're in it, just pause and say, how is this getting me closer to all those things that I've said that I want to feel? Because it's not. It's distancing you. And a medicine that we need as INFJ INFJs, because I think we're quite serious, is we need that playfulness. We need laughter. We need those states. Whenever we play or we laugh, we actually bring our nervous system down into flow state. It's like what we're in when we're writing something and we're not consciously thinking about the words that are coming through. We're just, we're creating something, we're having a conversation where we're not thinking about the time or how long it's been, or is this person getting sick of listening to me? When we're in flow state, it's actually the same state that we need for sexual arousal. We can't be up in like worry and what do they think of me, but we can't be so far down that we're like, okay, I'm about to go to sleep now. we need to be in that juicy kind of cool, calm, airy, confident place. So I think we just need some more laughter. We need the medicine of like laughing a little bit more and not being so attached and holding things with an iron grip. Like, I get it. We value these things, but just let it go a little.
I think that's really where self-love comes in as well. Where when you're in that flow state and you're releasing those expectations and you're really thinking about what you really want and not what you want in this moment, but what you want out of life, what emotions that you're looking for, that you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And other people will benefit from you like being in that flow state more often. Like, it's not about being in it all the time, because that's really challenging because we've got stuff to do and some boxes to tick, but it's about you being in it more often. Like, they will feel that, and then you'll be a permission granter for them as well. It's just the high expectations. If someone has high expectations, you don't really want to jump to those high expectations. Like, you're not a dog doing a trick. If someone's got them and they say, hey, jump up and meet me here, you go, well, why should I? Like, why? So we've got to think about what it's like this is one time where I give you permission to kind of step outside and look at it from the other person's perspective, but not to become fixated on it, but just think about what it would be like if you gave someone a gift that wasn't exactly, it was just a good example, I hope you don't mind me using it, but if you gave someone a gift and you thought it was cool or quirky or said something about them, or might be something that, that they could move towards, or something that they could be interested in, and you didn't quite hit the mark, like, how would you want them to respond? You wouldn't want to be punished or, cut off, or you're dead to me. Like, you wouldn't want that kind of treatment. You're like, hey, dude, I was just having some fun. Like, yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of permission just to step outside yourself for a moment and just like, it's all good.
As far as gifts go, I'm usually 50-50. I either hit it dead on or it's like, oh, what is this?
Go flat.
Okay, so I'm going to use one of your tactics. I'm going to ask you something that's really awkward that I feel really uncomfortable asking you, but I've read it in a few different places and I'm curious.
Can't wait.
I read that INFJs have a really high sex drive. Like, that's somehow part of our personality or something. and
okay.
One of my favorite things, one of the reasons why I started my blog is because I feel like there's a lot of good information about INFJs out there, but then there's a lot of information that's based on theories that's not written by INFJs.
Yeah.
So from this perspective, if we're talking about communication or relationships or door slams or whatever it is, I can go ask all the INFJs.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
With this one, it's like, I'm not going to ask anybody that question. So you seem like the perfect person to ask.
Yes, please. This is the best question I have ever been asked. Ever. Okay. All right. My belief is yes, but I'm going to deconstruct it a little bit.
Okay.
Rather than high sex drive, I'm going to say we've got a high libido. Sex drive is one of those terms that we still use, but it's kind of a little bit incorrect, because it suggests that if we don't have sex, we're going to die. Like, our body will perish, like if we didn't have water or food or shelter. So I think we've got a high libido. I think we've got a high interest in sex and the sexual, and we have a very rich fantasy world. How that translates to the act of sex and being physical in sex, I don't know that it always translates. I think that we are very comfortable having this rich inner world of safe fantasy, and that could be possible, and really getting romantic and deep intimacy and exploring the taboo. Whether we go and actually do those things
it's two different things.
is another question. So yes, I do. I think we've got very high libidos, but I don't think we should be valuing how that comes out in sex, or how that is enacted in the physical, if that makes sense at all. I think we need to go, I've got a high libido on the inside, and to be like, and that is enough. Like one of the things that we grapple with is not feeling enough, and feeling like we don't fit in what is a very classically extroverted world. So this has been one that I've had to reconcile over the years myself, and it's something I'm very frank about on my blog, about how often I have sex and what I think sex is. And sex to me is so much more than intercourse, or however you define that, or using a sex toy, or experiencing genital touch, either with yourself or someone else. It is so much more than that to me, because it's a massive web. It's how I respond when I watch a scene in a movie. It's how my body moves when I hear a song that just sounds like sex to me. It's just like, it sounds sexy, and it sounds like what I think of as, or what I feel is sex. And there aren't words for that. There isn't and it isn't like, I hear this, so I'm going to go have an orgasm over it. Like, it's not, it doesn't work that way for me. It's just that feeling in that moment in time is enough. Like, I feel like I've been sexual just hearing that piece of music and going, oh, and like, even just you asking me that question brings this like movement into my body of just like, yeah, it's all there. It's all there. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go do something about it. It doesn't mean I'm going to go have a one night stand. It doesn't mean I'm going to go, pounce on someone or self-pleasure over it. It just means that I felt something that felt sexual to me, or felt like libido, or felt like sexual energy, and that's enough. So yes, I do, but it's not maybe what you classically think of as being sexual. It's very different, and it really brings me so much liberation, rather than getting caught up in but I haven't done this for X amount of days. I haven't propositioned my husband for 6 days. Is there something wrong with my sex life? Is there something wrong with my libido? It's like, well, no, I've been reading about sex. I've been talking about it. I've been fantasizing. I've heard this music. I've watched this movie. I've seen this piece of art that really does something for me. Doesn't mean that I'm not sexual just because I haven't gone forward in the bedroom.
It kind of brings us back to where we started from, with not feeling like it's okay, and not feeling like we're enough. I think a lot of times we get stuck in that. And I think there are definitely some of us, I know myself included, have come from not only a family, but a religion where it wasn't okay. To the point where I went to a concert, been to quite a few concerts, where a lot of the music, when you listen to it, most of the songs are written about sex in some form or other, right? So when you go to the concert, I mean, it's a great concert, there are families there and stuff, but my family was like, why are you going to that concert? Like, what's happening here? What's going on? Like, I went to meet the band as well, and paid extra money to go to meet and greet, and they're like, why would you do that? Like, what are you doing? You need to be careful with that. And I'm like, why is it not okay? It's just music, it makes me feel good in a different way than what I felt before. And like you said, that doesn't mean that, that you're going to have a one night stand or something. It just means that you're enjoying the moment and the way that it makes you feel.
Yes. And isn't it interesting how, from what your family was saying, there's that fear that if you listen to this thing, you're going to take an action from it. There's going to be a behavior, and then that makes that taboo. And interestingly enough, that can work really backwards, in that people can go, well, you've made this thing kind of forbidden, and now I'm even more curious about it. Whereas like, if they just said, go enjoy yourself, enjoy the music, or hey, what do you love about it? Like what does that music do for you? Or just being curious about you and what you love about it would actually create a protective factor rather than like creating this taboo thing. Like, so there's that massive misconception that when you enjoy something, then it's going to cause you to take an action. And I just want to say that's completely not true. In fact, it can just help you to explore something in a really safe way. And and what's wrong with enjoyment? Enjoyment and pleasure are just so taboo, especially in some religious sects. It's very spoken out against enjoying yourself and feeling things that feel good, and that you should be punished and you should feel guilty and you should feel bad and you should be repenting. And it's not done a lot for us getting to know ourselves. So as adults now, we've got a choice as to what of those messages we want to be a part of our lives and a part of our hearts and our value system, and what ones we kind of need to disentangle from, so that we can feel the things that we want to feel and that we can feel safe to explore.
Yes, for sure. I grew up with a whole set of beliefs around lots of different things, not just sex and intimacy and things, and I think a lot of it was based around pleasing other people. And it's like I've gotten to this age that I'm at now where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to set all of that down and then start over again, really figuring out who I am, and then giving myself permission to be who I want to be as well. And letting go of that person that I thought that I was. And then just kind of starting over with a clean slate and saying, okay, what is it that I want? Who am I? Because I get to be whatever I want to be. I can, even part of when I figured out that I was an INFJ, I was scared to have a feeling personality, because I thought that meant that all of my feelings had to be out in the open all of the time. That I was somebody who's going to cry in public or something. Completely opposed to doing. But it's just this giving yourself permission to, to be what you want to be and to feel the way that you want to feel.
Yep, for sure. And that's liberation, right? Like that is freedom. That is what every human wants, freedom, fundamentally. Like that might not come out as that word, or it might look a little bit different, but everyone wants to feel a sense of freedom or free or liberated. And that to me is like what you just said is the definition of that, is being able to feel what I feel about a situation and to process it. I'm a bit of a slow processor. There's some things that come in super quick and I just know. Like that's why I'm a therapist, and I'm just like I hear a situation and I just know so quickly where the pieces are, and I can't explain it. It doesn't have, there's no scientific study that says, how do you just know this? But I just know. But there are other times where I'm just like, okay, I just need to process for a while and sit back and see how I feel about that. And that to me is such a privilege. It is such a privilege and such a luxury to be able to do that, especially when there are so many societies and cultures that don't allow women any form of opinion or any form of voice or any to possess any feelings at all. So I don't take that for granted, and that to me is freedom, and it doesn't cost anything.
For sure. That freedom is so incredibly special and so amazing. So tell me about what it is that you do. You do coaching as well as therapy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So I'm very curious, and I've always worked in taboo topics because I find them so interesting and I find them endless. That's what I've always chosen, work that feels endless. So I started off in drug and alcohol, in mental health nursing, and then I moved into drug and alcohol nursing, and then I started studying sexology, and it just totally captured my interest because it felt like I could never know it all, and I don't ever want to know it all anyway, because that to me sounds kind of boring. Like I want my curiosity to be really picked from this topic. So I started about 7 years ago offering, when I'd finished my studies, just offering sessions only to women. I've always worked with women. And it took me a while to work out more about myself. And I actually only realized about 6 or so months ago, I found an old printout of my Myers-Briggs that I was INFJ from 2005. And so it was like this moment, this aha moment, I just smiled and laughed. And it was like, you're meant to be a therapist or a writer. And I'm like, well, I'm both. Like, INFJ dreams come true. I like, so learning more about being an INFJ through your network and channel and your portal, and over the last 6 months or so, has given me another sense of liberation. And it turns out, when I ask my clients, they're not necessarily INFJ, but they're pretty close. They're either like, they're usually one, they're one different. And that's cool, because I can still relate to them. We're still fun. We're still, very, very similar in so many ways. So it's been this process of like offering this work, this deep women's work, to women who are a lot like me, and saying, you know what, this is what I've learned, this is how I've given myself permission. Could you give yourself permission to be this way too, to turn up in sex and life just as you are, rather than pretending to be someone that you're not? So I do that in one-to-one work, and I did it through my book, Permission, Personal Liberation for Switched On Women. And I didn't realize, before I really got into learning more about being an INFJ, when I wrote Permission, I stopped and I said, that was the best project I've ever done in my life. And I didn't realize why. It's like, because you're by yourself all the time, and because you're writing, and because you've got no one to step in and say, this isn't right, or you should, blah, blah, blah. It was a total permission granting process, and it took my nervous system into that flow state. Every single word of that book was written in flow state. And I had a dream editor who I'm sure is an introvert, and she does lots of women's work. Her name is Lisa Lister. She's phenomenal if you don't know her. And I've gotten all these clues over time. It's like, oh, this is why I am the way I am. And I think you did a post once about how INFJs love watching the same movies over and over. And I'm like, oh my God. So there are some that, like, I don't even know where the movie ends and my personality begins. It's like they're so entrenched in my life and in my feelings and in that part of, like, that time of my life, like a time capsule kind of thing. So right. It's been liberating. It's been, so thank you for what you do, and thank you, because what you're doing is this is what I love about women's work. You say something, I embody it, or it clicks something for me, and then I can like help liberate someone else, and then they liberate another woman or another person. And I love that. I love that cycle of things. Obviously, so that's me. So I do a lot of writing, and I do a lot of one-to-one work, because I just realized I just love the intensity and the depth. Like, I'm always looking for these deep experiences. I love the depth of one-to-one. I do like groups as long as they're small, but I just find that one-to-one is just really consistent, and I like the feedback loop. I like being able to see how you're responding, and then to tweak how I work with you to make sure that you as a person are getting what you need. Because one thing about sex and libido is there is no blanket approach. Like, no way can I dole out generic sex advice, because you're going to go, but this is my situation, or this is my experience, or this is my personal history, or this is how I feel. And that just doesn't click in with me. And that's what I like about one-to-one, is being able to, and conversations like this, is being able to speak in nuances.
Right. Right. I love what you said about giving yourself permission and not having to answer to anybody. Those are the big things that, I mean, they just hit home with me. I have been in marketing and social media for almost 10 years in my profession.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm always in my jobs, because I've had way too many jobs, but I'm always starting different social media accounts and trying to tell people what they need to do to be able to make them work really well. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll do it your way. My INFJ Woman Instagram account is the first account that I've ever started and had complete control of, and there's nobody else. I can do what I want.
Yes. And look at the result. Look at the result when
I'm
you speak your truth.
Yes, I'm so proud of that. And how I started it was because there was all these quotes that inspired me and made me feel understood. And I thought, well, if I could just make one person feel that way. And now there's all these people that come to me and say, you know, exactly what you said, that it just clicks and I feel understood. And it's such amazing work, honestly. It's really what lights me up, and I feel like it's really my purpose. And it's amazing to meet people like you too that, you know, feel the same way and are doing something that makes them feel the same way. So.
Yeah, definitely. It has, what you're doing, what I'm doing, it has these major ripple effects, and it really can just start. Something that I want introverts to know is, like, just because you don't have the loudest voice doesn't mean that you're not having the most impact. Like, sometimes I can get caught up in, like, you know, putting extroverts on a pedestal and going, well, it's okay for them, and like, it's just stuff that's not helpful, like the stuff that's not helpful. But I just come back to my truth of, like, Lauren, are you speaking your truth? Are you putting out there maybe what you needed to hear 10 years ago? Are you are you sharing something that could, you know, cause someone to just stop and pause and reflect for a little bit? And if you are, then you're doing the work. Like, don't get caught up in numbers, don't get caught up in vanity metrics, don't, like, there's more. I just don't think we see the full effect of what happens when we speak out or we speak up in our own way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why it's so important for us to be authentic and to really figure out who we really are and to share that with the world, because that's what's important. That's what everybody needs.
Yeah.
All right, I hope that you guys enjoyed that interview as much as I did. Like I said, Lauren was completely amazing, and I really appreciate her being on the podcast and doing the video and everything. Also, just another reminder, you can find all of our podcasts on YouTube. So there's a video of me and Lauren talking, and it's such a different experience seeing our faces in person. Well, not really in person, but seeing our faces. It helps you to connect a lot more. So definitely check it out. It's at youtube.com /The Quiet Ones podcast. I also have another project that I'm working on that I'm so very excited to share with you guys. I cannot tell you how many people have messaged me that I've talked to and that say there should be a community for INFJs. And that word keeps coming up, community. And social media just doesn't, it sort of feels like a community, but there's so much else out there that distracts you, and there's not really a good way to segment all of it. With all the different kinds of social media. And it seems like I'm running into more and more people who aren't really that interested in Facebook these days. Or there's some people who are on Facebook, but they're not on Instagram. And it's kind of just a little bit of everywhere. So I have this new project that I'm working on that is kind of like Facebook, but it's so much better. There's no ads. There's no algorithm to mess with. And there's a lot more opportunity for us to have a real community where we can all come together in the same place and learn from each other as INFJs, and to learn all about all kinds of different information, not just our personality types, but also the things that we struggle with, the things that make us happy, and other things too, like the businesses that we have, the careers that we have, our families and our relationships. There's all different kinds of ways that we can sort out all the information, but also have it all in the same place, that when you're looking for something, you know exactly where to go to find it. It's not quite 100% ready to launch yet, but it's very close. So if you're interested in that, please head over to infjcommunity.com. Be on the inside, get some discounts on some things that are going to happen, get a first look at it before I launch it for everybody. You can also find the information on my website at infjwoman.com. I am so very excited to share all of this with you. As soon as I found this platform, it felt like all of my dreams were coming true. It's like all of this big plan that we've been talking about, this thing that's like how do we form this community? Because I really feel like that's what this is. This is a place for us as INFJs to come together and to really feel like we have friends and people who understand us, and we don't actually have to be together in person. But the great part about this community is that it's going to give us the opportunity to hold events, that some of them will be in person in the future, but then there'll also be events kind of like how Facebook does it, where we can do live video events, or we can just do like a group chat type of event. So it can be a virtual event as well as a live and in-person event. So there's so many opportunities, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with you. Again, you can find all the information at infjcommunity.com, and I'll post a link for it in the show notes as well. So yeah, that's all that we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed the interview with Lauren, and I hope that you'll check out her blog and her social media. She really is completely amazing, and she's so sweet to talk to too. So if you have any questions, or if you're looking for any advice, I would definitely reach out to her. She's very easy to talk to. So yes, again, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast and leave a review. It helps other people to find us. One more time, definitely go check out the video interviews that are on YouTube, which is youtube.com/thequietonespodcast. Again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.